Today's episode is going to stretch your mind and open your heart. I'm sitting down with my dear friend Kara Bunde-Dunn, a spiritual medium, Sunday school teacher, and one of the most grounded woo-woo people I know. We talk about suicide, grief, and what it means to be open to signs from the other side. You may be skeptical, and that's okay, but if you've ever lost someone to suicide and longed for healing or closure, this conversation might be exactly what your soul needs to hear. As always, if you do not feel comfortable listening to this episode, that is okay too. Follow your gut. Welcome to the Suicide Prevention Lady podcast, where we make intervention easy. I'm your host, Dr. Rikki Turner, a suicide intervention expert. Please take note, I am the thinky kind of doctor and not a medical professional, so please do not take anything in this podcast as medical advice. Please welcome Kara Bunde-Dunn.
Welcome to the podcast. I have Kara Bunde-Dunn today. She is a spiritual medium. So I know we're probably hitting some people and they're going, wait, did I tune into the right podcast? Yes, you did. Still the Suicide Prevention Lady podcast, but this is one of my good friends. And I wanted to bring a different take to the podcast today because as a spiritual medium, sometimes Kara does connect with those who have passed, who have died by suicide. Is that correct?
That is correct. Yep. From time to time, I'll do readings where it has affected a family and they're really wanting to know, is the person okay? And, you know, they have a lot of big emotions about it all. And so I feel always so grateful to be a messenger to families that have gone through this kind of situation.
Yes. Okay. And to be completely transparent with everyone, I know that this talking to a medium may not jive with everybody's personal religious beliefs. So I want to invite you to come to this with an open mind because, I mean, Kara's a wonderful person. She goes to church. She does the things. She does all the things. It's just, I would like you to, can you introduce yourself kind of the way you do to people who are a little skeptical?
I absolutely can. And I will say this, I'm a medium who also teaches Sunday school. So go figure. Yeah. I hadn't always been a medium, you know, as you know, we know each other from our corporate world and how we, intertwined in that world and in that way. But my abilities awakened into me after the age of 40. And so I had a really traditional upbringing, like really, small town farm kid from Minnesota. Yeah. And then, went on into the business world and these abilities awakened within me. And I really just felt called to do something with them for other people. Yeah. It just felt like it was a deep part of my purpose to help people have closure, connection, and meaning to the unseen. And I think the thing that has been so significant for me is just knowing that we all have angels around us. We all have loved ones in spirit who are connecting with us and that, our soul lives on. And it's a really beautiful thing to get so much confirmation of that every single day. And especially with the types of listeners that you have on your podcast, they're going through probably still really significant, big emotions about the things that took place and what to make sense of all of that. And if throughout this podcast, even if you just keep an open heart a little bit, there may very well be just a little bit of healing that comes in for you by the end of this episode.
Yeah. Thank you so much for that. So when people come to you for a reading, especially when it's around like, the loss of somebody close to them to suicide, when they're coming to you, what are they seeking? What is it like? Like what's the version of them that you get?
Yeah, it's interesting because sometimes it's anger. They're angry. Like how could they choose this? And they really want to resolve that anger or get some clarity around that. Mm-hmm. Other times they're coming with a significant amount of guilt and shame. Like I should have prevented this. There is something I should have been doing, and they want to know what they should have done. And then the really, really big thing is they want to know they're okay. They want to know if they're okay. Especially if you're very religious, it can be some confusing messages around that, depending on where your faith group resides. And so I often have that as a core message as well. They're wanting to see if they can connect with the loved one in spirit and if they are okay.
Gotcha. And that tracks almost uniformly with what I experience when like I go out and talk to people, like talk to groups and everything. People will come up to me afterwards, and that's one of the biggest things. Or even when people reach out on social media and talk to me about things, it's always what I just wish I could have done something. I should have done X, I should have done Y. And I am really big on me, like, we're not going to shoot ourselves to death.
That's right.
That's not what we're going to do.
That's exactly right. And I will say this, when somebody dies by suicide, usually, and I'll speak in generalities, there's some unique stories, of course,
Sure.
but usually I'm getting a sign. And if you're watching the video, I don't know if you do video, but I'll get like a waving hand over their brain. And what that tells me is they're very overwhelmed. While they were in their 3D body, everything felt too much, too overwhelmed. My brain was not functioning properly. I was not thinking properly. And it's sometimes a combination of like mental health and well-being and clarity. And it's like there's a giant fog over them, and they cannot figure out how to get over that fog. And they just don't see a pathway to light in their 3D bodies. And so they're giving me this sign for this and how freeing it is to clear that. And usually what happens is the choices that they made to live into this life and those lessons, usually around worthiness, like worthy of a great life, worthy of love, worthy of being accepted, all of those kinds of things. It really just comes down to, it was too overwhelming to learn that lesson. And it's like I contracted that lesson in this life, but I didn't know. I knew it was going to be hard, but I didn't know it was going to be that hard. Is usually what the soul says, like, whoa, I just couldn't cut it. I couldn't cut the mustard. It was way harder than I thought it was going to be to learn this, like, let's just say it's worthiness, this lesson of worthiness, the way that I chose to live it through really hard human lessons. And so that's usually what happens is it's just too heavy, too foggy, too unclear in their brain, and they cannot get out of their own way in that way.
Gotcha. Okay. I'm glad you said that. You're alluding to something that I'm not sure everybody is on the same page on. So, and this is just some background to understand the perspective that Kara and I specifically, and some of the, the more woo people tend to come at things. And it's this idea, like, I personally, I don't disagree with Christianity really in any major fundamental way. I believe that Jesus came to earth. I believe he was an enlightened soul. I believe all of these things, right? And I also believe the research and the things that have gone into this, that we are a soul having a human experience.
That's exactly right. That is exactly what I say.
We're basically here on like earth school or human school or whatever you want. Like, we're here because our souls need to learn certain lessons. And we knew what we were going to go through before we came down. Like, we knew what we were supposed to be learning. We knew like what the idea was.
Yeah. The way I explain it, or the way it comes through, is like, we contract to learn certain things, but yet we have free will. So we still get to choose if we're going to learn them or not. And then, so we are a soul having a human experience, and then our soul goes back home. That's how I like to think about it.
Right.
If you ever wonder how it really works, just watch the Disney movie Soul. Like, just go watch that movie and you're like, oh, is this how it works? That is what my guides tell me.
Okay. Yeah. I really love that movie too. Like, when I watched it, I was like, it's kind of like when people watch The Good Place.
Yeah.
And they were like, I think The Good Place is kind of how it is, whatever makes sense in your head. But anyway.
Yeah. And I will say this as well. Like, when we are in human form on earth, we have duality, right? We have we couldn't really experience pain without really experiencing love, right? The polar opposites of things. And we can do that in soul form, in heaven, whatever you want to call it. There isn't that duality. It's just learning by, like, sitting in a classroom learning, but not learning through experience. Right. Mm-hmm. And so when we're we have this duality with us, like, oh, I have like courage and fear. I have hope and despair. I have like, what I think of as good and bad. And that is the human experience. It's not meant to be perfect. And if it was perfect, we wouldn't need to do it.
Right.
And so even when things are very, very hard or don't make sense, or things that cause a lot of trauma and pain in a family, it is there to teach us something, even when it's incredibly painful.
Yeah. Yeah. I agree. And it's kind of like I went through this phase, early on in my life. And, I went through lots of
Yeah.
hard as a
Yeah.
child.
Yes.
And even at that moment, I remember thinking, as long as I can turn this into good for someone, like this happened to me for a reason. And then I went through this time in early adulthood where I was like, maybe the reason was the world sucks. Maybe that was the reason. Maybe I don't have to make a huge meaning out of everything, and it just sucks. And that sucks. And I'm choosing to do something better with it. And now I'm kind of back to that where it's like, no, I think it probably did happen for a reason. And I probably agreed to have this happen to me whenever I was like soul form or whatever. And it like, this is the part that I'm learning is how to really take that and create meaning from pain.
Right. Like, so for example, your listeners, right? Like, let's say that they're feeling shame or guilt and you're like, I should have done something. What should I have done? Right. That may be what the lesson is. Like, this person left the earth in a way we would not want them to. And I feel shame and guilt about it, but I'm going to learn to process that. And I'm going to learn to come to a place of acceptance.
Yeah.
Now, I'm not saying like joyful, jump up and down, so happy this thing happened. Don't mistake what I'm saying for that.
Yeah.
But it might be like, can I come to a place of peaceful resolution? Can I come to a place of acceptance for what happened? Can I come to a place of neutrality about it? That it does not mean they were a bad person or I was a bad person. This thing just happened.
Yeah.
And sometimes that is the lesson
Yeah.
to be able to get to that place of neutrality. And that takes effort. That takes a lot of effort to shift your vibrational state into a place of acceptance or neutrality about a topic.
Yeah. Okay. So you'd mentioned I wrote them down over here. So I'm looking away. You mentioned like 3 different times when people are coming to you. It's one of these 3 things in
Yes.
general when they're wanting to connect with somebody who's passed by suicide. So let's talk about the anger one first. They come to you and they are angry. I hear this all the time. And it's typically when people are believing a lot of myths about suicide. And so they come and they're like, it was so selfish.
Yeah.
It was like all of that, so someone comes to you with they're angry and they just need answers. I'm making an assumption there, but they just need answers of why did they do this? How do those readings typically go? What do you typically get from that?
Yeah. Well, they're usually very emotional. They're channeling their emotion through me, the loved one on the other side. It's an overwhelming experience for them too. And what I will tell you almost every single time is they were not thinking about you because they did not have space and capacity to do so. It was not because they were selfish. It was not because they didn't love you. It was not any of those reasons. It was that it all felt so overwhelming that they did not know how to go from the dark to the light. They really did not. But their soul knows how to go to the light. Their soul knows how to come back to the light. So deep inside of them, they know that, but their 3D human brain and life and body did not know how to do it. And so it wasn't about you. It really wasn't. And that's sometimes a hard pill to swallow. But what they're wanting you to know is like, it didn't mean I didn't love you. And it didn't mean that I was like choosing this knowing I was going to hurt you. It didn't even occur to me because the heavy was so heavy.
Gotcha. Yeah. Okay. So you said something there that kind of popped something for me. And it's so many times I hear people say it's not like people who have survived attempts, basically. And they're like, they experience some instant regret sometimes, or it's like, I didn't really want to die, but it seemed like it was the selfless thing to do was to take me out of your life so that I wouldn't
be a burden.
That's such a burden for you.
Yeah.
Like I wanted to free you of that burden. Have you had any readings where that's what's come through?
It makes sense to me. I cannot think of one specifically where that was the case. It's really like, it's really meant to be when they pass by suicide and they're on the other side, they really come together for healing. That's usually what happens is the soul on the other side feels like they got to say what they didn't get to say here on this earth about love and don't don't want you to carry this guilt, all these kinds of things. And I'm sorry that this burdened you. There's always so much of that there, and they really want to express that to kind of clear the air, if you will.
Yeah.
And so usually the readings have more of a healing effect but that makes sense to me, to somebody that may have had a near-death experience in that way, and then lived to tell about it and would say, that's what I was thinking.
Yeah.
Like, that makes sense to me, but I haven't had that channel in that specific way.
Gotcha. I've had a lot of people tell me that, and I never understood it. And to be honest, I mean, I understand it as just a human, an empathetic person.
Exactly.
But like, I couldn't put myself in those shoes, because I can clearly see, I mean, obviously I would rather have you here and be a burden. I've never thought of anybody as a burden anyway.
Right.
But if they are, like, that's the work I want to put into, because I love you that much,
Right.
And then it happened to me.
Oh.
And this was fairly recently, and I've got a whole different episode on it, but where I had the thought that I was like, my husband and my son would just be, I'm going to get emotional. They would just be so much better off without me. Like, I've become a burden. I didn't mean to do this.
That's all right. That's okay. It was meant to come out, so that's okay.
Right. Yeah, it's fine. But having that thought, and I mean, doing what I do, I was like, oh no.
Yeah. Yeah.
Like, it was like, uh-oh, I got to get help now.
Yeah.
Like, obviously, and it wasn't, the difference to me is it wasn't an intrusive thought where it's a, like, I'm driving down the road and my ADHD brain goes, wouldn't it be fun to drive off that bridge? No. Where did that come from? That's an intrusive thought. Where to me, when this thought happened, it was very, like, I believed it. Like, that, it made logical sense to me at the time. And that is what really tripped me, to be like, we are in dangerous territory. You've got to do something about this,
Yes.
So started talking to people or whatever. But once I understood it, I was like, oh, like, I hear questions all the time, like, how could that father leave their young child, blah, blah, blah,
Right.
blah, blah.
Right.
Because they think that they're going to mess them up if they don't.
Yeah, right.
Like,
that's right. It's usually very low. It can be a number of different things, but it's usually very low vibrational thinking, shame, guilt, fear, worry, all of those things that are very low vibrational emotions. Yeah. And those feel heavy and deep and hard.
Yeah. I really love the way you put it with the fogginess on your brain. Like, it's just too much. It's overwhelming. It's, I totally understand it now. And I'm glad I have that clarity. I wish I didn't, but
yeah,
I'm glad I have that clarity now, because I understand it on a deeper level.
And I will say this too, if that's not something you struggle with, if mental health is not something you struggle with, it's hard to understand it. Just like anything. You're like, addiction, whatever it is, it's like, why don't you just get help? Like, why don't you just go? Because
just stop. But
exactly.
I had somebody that they're pretty fat shamey, honestly. And they're always like, just put the fork down. Like, I don't understand why losing weight is so hard. And I'm just like,
yeah, my father-in-law is like that.
Yeah.
And he had commented about, we were sitting, here's a funny story for you. This has nothing to do with your podcast, but kind of. But we were having dinner and he was talking about how somebody looked. And I just said, you know what? I feel like the way somebody looks is just the most least interesting thing about them.
Truly.
And then he was like, well, I was just saying da da da. And I was like, yeah. Is there anything else we should talk about instead? And you could tell, like, the whole dynamic shifted. And I normally would just keep my mouth shut because he's my father-in-law. But I was like, just because that is not your challenge does not mean you don't have challenges. And maybe that is the core message back to your listeners too. Like, you may not ever choose that or allow that to be a choice in your awareness. But we don't walk in somebody else's shoes. We walk in our own. And so sometimes it's hard to truly understand someone else's point of view because it's not our frame of reference.
Yeah. Yeah, exactly. Exactly. So when you talked about the anger, when someone comes and they're just angry about it. And I mean, a lot of times it's because they don't understand that point of view. They don't understand that human experience. What about the ones that feel guilty? Like, I should have seen the signs. I should have done more. I should have loved them better.
From a vibrational frequency, they're very close to each other when we measure emotions on, like, from a scientific perspective and how they vibrate within us. They're very close to each other. They're right next to each other on the scale, to be honest. And so anger and shame are like not like the stepsister you never wanted, they're just like not what you want, But I will say shame is the lowest vibrational frequency that a scientist can study. There is nothing lower that you can measure on the scale than shame, way below anger. And so I always say, like, if we can at least release this burden from you, then you can go about your life in a more free way. And the loved one on the other side, and they usually describe like, oftentimes when somebody dies in an abrupt way or a sudden way by suicide, car accident, something like very significant, their soul at first, because it's so jolted, it's not like I was sick in a hospital bed for 5 months kind of thing.
Yeah.
Their soul is so jolted. And sometimes what happens is their soul is a little confused, and it just takes them a little bit of time to recognize how to step into the light. And so it's there for them, and their loved ones are pulling them, and their, angels are pulling them, and they're making sense of it. And they're kind of going like, oh, okay. Yes. I am not living in a human body anymore. I'm moving into the light. I'm going back to my soul home, to heaven, wherever it might be. And so that sometimes, like, if I'll do a reading, they may not come through right away, but I'll get a message about them. Like they're reviewing things, they're learning on the other side. They're not quite ready to communicate with you because they have to do some healing on the other side to get messages to you. So if you're asking for messages and you're like, I feel so much shame, I feel so much guilt, like, can you just give me a sign that you're okay? I just need to know you're okay. And maybe it's not coming right away. Just give it a little bit of time, because they have to do a little work on the other side. They have to do some healing to be able to come and help you heal. So if they are coming through in a reading, it really means that they've processed what happened on the other side, and they've done some healing on the other side as it relates to what happened.
Gotcha.
But I will say this, they don't want you to carry their burdens. If they could wish anything, it would be for you to live a happy life and let go of it and not carry their burdens forward.
Mm-hmm.
Because it's so heavy.
It is so heavy.
Hard. And sometimes my when I do channeled messages for people, their guides are really funny, like maybe yours. But these readings are usually a lot heavier because it's such a heavy thing they're working through. But I want people to know they go into the light. They get to step into joy and love and peace, and they get to heal. They really do. So don't think like, oh my gosh, what if they don't get to go to heaven, for example. I've had so many clients say, I was just so scared that they didn't get to go to heaven because of the way in which they died.
Yeah.
And I don't want you to carry that burden. If that's you and you've never had a reading and you'll never get a reading because it's too freaky, I just want you to know that is not true, that they get to go into the light,
right?
That they are a soul having a human experience, and they get to go back into their soul, and they get to go back home.
And here's another way too. I feel kind of led to say this. If you wouldn't be angry at a loved one or you wouldn't feel, if you wouldn't feel guilty for the passing of someone who passed by cancer, or heart attack or whatever.
That's right.
These natural ways. If you wouldn't feel guilty about that, if you wouldn't feel shame about that, don't feel shame about the mental illness, because your brain or whatever it is in our bodies that causes depression and mental health issues and stuff, that's just as valid as having a diseased heart or having a diseased, pancreas or lungs or whatever. We're in this 3D flesh. We're in this meat suit.
Yes.
And sometimes it's faulty. Okay.
Yes, that's right. And it's always faulty.
Yeah.
Not sometimes. It's just that your faults might be different than someone else's, but it always has some faults by design.
And suicide as a means of death, it is a symptom of some sort of mental illness. Something has gone. Something is wrong here.
That's right.
And the physical effect of that, the untreated or whatever effect of that can be suicide. It's a symptom of a different problem. And so free yourself from that burden. The other thing I will tell is I have lived through a very similar guilt. It wasn't that the person died by suicide, but it was a person was abused in a sexual abuse type of way as a child. And I carried that guilt with me for so long because it happened to me first. And instead of saying something, instead of telling people, instead of warning anybody, I felt a lot of shame around what happened. And I felt unsafe because the person who did this was a family member, and that family member, it was an uncle. And so that uncle, you know, I had this stepfather who was also abusive, who was also an alcoholic, who was also a horrible human being at that time. I don't know how he is now. I would like to give him space to be better, but you know, but he was awful at the time. And so I felt unsafe. Like if I said what his brother did to me, then I might have the shit beaten out of me. My mom might have the shit beaten out of her. I didn't know what was going to happen. And so I chose to really hold that in. And then, bless it, my sister has given me permission to talk about this, but she, you know, something worse happened to her. And instead of her holding that in, she came directly to me to tell me and warn me so that it didn't happen to me. And that's when I had to tell her it already did. And so
that makes sense why that would feel so shameful and heavy in your heart. Like, oh no.
Yeah. It felt like I am the reason this happened to her, you know, and I knew how much it messed me up, what happened to me. And so, you know, I just carried that. Now she is my older sister by a couple of years. She never once, we have talked about this. She never once thought that was my fault. She never once blamed me for not saying anything. That was never what she was thinking.
You were also harmed too.
Right. And we were children.
Exactly.
We were children. You do the best with what you have in those circumstances.
That's exactly right. But she did show you what it looked like to be courageous.
She did.
To say, you know what, she said something to me and maybe I can use my voice too. And now look at you.
Yeah.
And how powerful you are in using your voice and how many people you help by standing in your power and standing in in your courage. It's a really beautiful thing.
That's a beautiful way to put it. I've never thought about it like that. But like when I tell people the story, I carried that guilt for 30 years. 30 years I would get upset thinking about it and be like, I am the reason she was hurt. It was me. No, anybody who's listening, no, absolutely not. That would be the pedophile's fault.
That's exactly right.
He's the one that did that. It wasn't me. I did not do that to her. I did the best I could with the situation I was in. And that is my message to anybody feeling shame about losing someone to suicide, especially like a mother, a parent of some sort. You did not cause that. You did not, that wasn't your fault. Don't carry around the guilt that is not yours to carry, you know, like love them, connect with them, send them grace, send them love, and try to find some understanding, but empathy. But I don't believe in hell either. I don't know if that's,
I don't believe it in like the literal terms of like flames and things like that. It's like a state of being. Either you're going to be in a state of love and joy and acceptance, and you're going to be in the state of light, or you're going to not quite get there. And then but you can always go into the light.
Yes, agreed. And so I don't believe that a loving God would send anybody to hell for eternity. Like that's the piece that I have a really hard time with. And so,
and I'm grateful that I can give that specific clarity to people when they come. Yeah.
Yes.
The other thing that sometimes comes up is sometimes it's also coupled with some substance abuse, you know, drinking or drugs or other destructive behaviors. And then they were like, well, I was so hard on them. I was so hard on them about the thing. And, you know, I closed the door because, you know, I had to put up a barrier or a wall, and we were responding to the the way the pain was coming out in the form of substance abuses in some way, shape, or form. Now, this isn't always true, but this does happen from time to time as well. And I will just say that's also just another symptom. It's just another symptom of trying to escape the big feelings that they're feeling, and they don't know how to process them.
Yes. Yes. I hear that all the time. It was a last resort because I had tried I just wanted release from the pain. I wanted release from the relief, and a lot of times they try everything they can think of. And that includes drugs and alcohol. Like, what can numb this pain for me that I feel better?
That's right. Exactly. Yeah. And there might be things in their story that, like what happened with you, there might very well be things in their story that they never told anybody, and it doesn't serve them now on the other side to share it either, but they really just want you to let go of the shame. Like, it is not your fault, and I am okay. Yeah. You will be reunited with me, and our souls will reconnect, and all the love that we have within each other will come back in full force because it's still here right now. And I am okay. So do not live your life in shame. Live your life. Go live it. And I want to be there experiencing it with you. And I want to learn everything about it on the other side. Yeah. But I want you to go live your life. Yeah. And maybe it happened because now you can see a warning sign you didn't see before and help somebody else. Right. And that happens a lot. A lot. A lot. Yes. Where that you're like, now I had a friend that went through this similar experience to me, and I know how to be a good friend to her because I know things I didn't know before. Yeah. Yeah. Okay. And you mentioned something else, or wait a minute. And are they okay? Sorry. I do want to hit that. And are they okay? And I think that's exactly right. You've pretty much said this already, is like, yes. They step into the light. They step into the light. They are not in purgatory. They are not in hell. They're not in these bad places. Their soul gets to step into the light. Yeah. And there is no judgment on the other side of yourself or others. Now we work through and we heal and we grow on the other side, but we're not judging ourselves like, oh, wow, I was so bad. I was so wrong. It's not like that. That's not the message that I get from the other side. It truly is like, oh, okay, I see that. I'm healing from that. And you're not carrying that with you on the other side. You're really just learning how to keep healing and growing and expanding as a soul. That's all. Okay. Now I am going to put you on the spot here. I don't think you're prepared for this one, but you're so good. You're okay. Okay. Your guides are going to be telling you in your little mind's eye exactly what to say. I love it. Okay. So I just had this weird fear come up, and I was immediately put at ease. So I'll put it like that. But this fear came up, was like, I hope no one is listening to this who is currently suicidal and is like, so I should just go ahead and die by suicide, because then I will feel the relief. Like she's just confirming that I'm gonna feel that relief. What would you say to those people who are maybe having that thought? Yeah, it's interesting. I'm just going to channel the message that's coming through. Like, you are loved and you are held. And if you are here and you are walking this earth, it is for a reason. Lean into that reason and trust that you are still here because you still have work to do. Mm-hmm. So go forth and do it. It is okay to keep going, and it is okay to accept the love around you. Mm. This is not a sign for that. This is a sign to wake up and step into your purpose. Mm. What are you here to do? Let the love in. Mm. Let the love in. Mm. That gave me the tingles. Me too. Me too. Let the love in. I do mean that. Like, I did just a bit of a channeled message there, but truly, if you are still here, it is for a reason. And maybe you're contemplating something hard, like what you just said, but work through it. Come out on the other side of it, because you are here for a reason. Okay. So that is the perfect segue into talking about signs. Okay. So what I talk about, and like when I'm speaking to people, is, there is like direct suicide intervention, or that is like, I am asking you, hey, are you thinking about hurting yourself? Are you considering suicide? I need to let you know how much I love you. It's direct showing up for them. It's the direct intervention, right?
But then there's passive suicide intervention. And that's where signs really come in. And I mean, I have so many stories of this, but
Yeah.
it's where you're like, if sometimes people who get into that level of despair, they're like, I just need a sign that I'm supposed to.
That's
Just
right.
give me a sign that I'm supposed to say. And I have been that sign for so many people in the most random ways.
Yeah.
So let me give you a couple of examples. I tell these stories all the
I
time.
can't wait for what you're going to share.
I have merch on my website, right? And it's just stuff that's like, it's t-shirts that say, your story isn't over, stuff like that, right? I happen to be wearing one of those. I was going into Walmart at our local Walmart. My son needed some sort of like poster board or something like that for a project that I found out at like 9 o'clock at night. And I am a pumpkin at about 8:30, roughly.
Yeah, same.
And so, finding that out, I was not in a pleasant place. I was not in a high vibe frequency walking into that Walmart. I wanted to get in and get out, and I did not want to talk to anybody, right?
Right.
I happened to be wearing a shirt that says your story isn't over. I no more than get through the threshold of the Walmart and someone sees me and they go, oh my God. And I was like, okay. Not even sure they were talking to me, but they were looking directly at me and they're like, oh my God, I love your shirt. And I was like, oh, thank you so much. And she was like, do you have a second? I knew immediately I need to talk to this person.
Yeah.
Like my son was meant to tell me last minute that he needed that so that I could be at that moment at the right time. And she just talked to me about how she was looking for a sign that she needed to stay because she struggled with suicide for so long. And she was just like, I just needed a sign. And then you walked in.
Could she find a better angel than you about this topic?
What's fun is like, I tell that story and it makes, I don't tell it to be like, look how awesome, look at this.
Yeah, it's coming from your heart center.
Yeah, it's one of those things where like, I was so cranky. Like if anything, I brought a little bit of a negative vibe to that, right? Because I was like, oh God, no.
Like, I don't want to talk to anybody. No, what I meant was, yes, I'd love to talk to you.
Yeah. Let me change my mind. But it happened that way. And we had a beautiful conversation. And like, I believe she's around now. I don't know. We didn't like exchange numbers and become friends, but we had a beautiful moment in a Walmart at 9:30 at night, in Little Arkansas, because I was a sign for her that she needed.
That's right.
I
think intuitive hits, we often think like sometimes they are like an actual shout, like turn left, like things like that. But usually it's a little gentle nudge that you think you imagined. And you're like, oh, I just imagined that. Like, I thought of my friend Carol and I should call. And then that's like, oh my God, I should call her. But then you don't, because you're like, oh, that was dumb. Why did I do that? Like, why did I think of her?
Yeah.
When you get that, like something that comes into your awareness out of nowhere, out of the blue, just trust that it is a little nudge from the other side. It is a little bit of an intuitive hit, and write that note, call that person, check in on them. Like if you feel that and there's some little nudge for you to do it, by all means do it. And you never know the ripple effect that will have. Yes.
That you just landed right into the next one. So I was laying in bed one night, just scrolling my, doom scrolling, avoiding sleep, disassociating with the world,
Yep. Standard operating procedure.
Right. Things one does in the day. And, again, it's late at night for me. May not be late for other people, but it's late for me. I'm looking over at my bed right now, like where this happened. And all of a sudden I was like, you need to check on so-and-so, Susie. And I was like, at 9:45, who starts a conversation at 9:45?
Right.
That is criminal,
Yeah.
I was like, okay, why would I think of that all scrolling on TikTok or whatever, but I did. And so I reached out just via text and was like, hey, how are you doing? Just, out of the blue.
Right.
And she says, how did you know? And I said, how did I know what? I'm checking on you. And she was like, no, that's really weird. How did you know? And I was like, I need you to tell me what I knew because I don't know. And she was like, I just took my bottle of Valium, the whole bottle.
Oh my God. You've got to be kidding me.
She had just taken it. And I had texted her and I was like, oh, Susie, no. Okay. Can I call you? You know, and she was, yes. And I was like, where are you? All the things. We get
Right.
the ambulance there, you know, we do all the things, but she had just attempted. And I reached out at the moment, like she had just taken them. Still here today. She's had other struggles, you know, like it's a cycle. But when you get that hit, like what you're saying, like that is it. I cannot say that is just chance.
No, it isn't, because our souls are interconnected. That is why. Like we are all here in this earth, and like the Kevin Bacon 7 degrees of separation, like that's real. That's like actually real in a soul way. Like we are all interconnected with each other, and one person's story ripple affects another person's story.
Right.
And it is by design. And so you're like, that is like you trusting that intuition or listening to this little angel nudge to tell you, check on her. Yeah. And you did it. And it's so easy to ignore that and think that it's your imagination. And whenever people like really struggle with intuition or their clairs, I'm just like, use your most powerful clair, your clair imagination. You know, it's like, use that one. It's fine. Like it is fine, not like it is not your imagination. You know, it's like, if you need to call it that, call it that. Like maybe I imagined it, whatever, who cares, but I'm going to act on it anyway.
Yeah. Yeah. And that's the thing is like, I tell people all the time, you know, I like to do this exercise. It's my favorite exercise to do whenever I'm giving a speech, but I want you to think of somebody in the world that you just, you cannot imagine your life without them.
Yeah.
Who is it? Who pops into your head?
My dad.
Your dad. So I was, you know, whoever that is, I want you to just text them out of the blue right now. Get your phones out, text them and say, hey, just want you to know I love you. Thinking about you. I'm in my life, or I'm glad you're in my life. If you want, if this is awkward for you, because, you know, I grew up in a household that we did not tell each other we loved each other. Like we would rather die than to tell each other we would love each other, you know. And then
my brother must have like skipped our house and wound up in yours somehow.
It's funny. I love to tell the story because then when my parents got divorced, my dad got remarried and he remarried a Care Bear. Like she hugs and loves on everybody, anybody and everybody. Like she's just whatever. So you know, we blend this family.
He's like balancing out the love meter. You know, he's like, oh, I'm gonna like go the opposite way.
Yeah, yeah, wild. And she's all the time telling her kids she loves them and everything. And I'm going like, Dad, don't touch me. Don't, please. Bubble. You know, we're not hugging.
I always hug you when I see you though. And you seem to accept it. Okay.
I hug everybody now, girl. I have transformed. Anybody, you need a hug? Come here. Clothes wash. If you're dirty, that's fine. Let's get a hug. But then I didn't. It was just really weird, you know. I always compare it to, you know, you get your hands really cold from building a snowman or something, and you come in and you accidentally wash your hands in hot water.
Yeah.
And it's like, it's hot. That hurts, you know. If you think it's what you need, but you don't. It's kind of like experiencing love when you haven't experienced love. It feels weird. It feels foreign.
Gosh, you know, I hadn't ever thought about it that way. What a powerful analogy, you know?
Oh, okay.
Yeah, that's deep. That's really good.
I'm gonna put that in my points thing. I impressed Kara Bunde-Dunn today.
Yeah, no, for real. Because if you think about the ripple effect of that, like you're like, you know, when you don't know why this person is struggling so much, it might feel like that. Like the goodness you're asking them to see in themselves and others and what's possible for them feels like you just frozen hands in hot water. Like, I don't know how to do that.
Yeah, you have to ease it in. You got to start with the cool water and then let the cool water get warmer. Yeah.
That might be an interesting approach to like, instead of like, wake up, you know, like what you're trying to do. Maybe it's just like, I'm thinking of you today. You know, maybe it's like that's ease them into loving themselves and accepting love from you.
That's what I say is like, if this is so uncomfortable for you, I understand. Say, hey, the mean lady that is talking to me right now wanted me to text somebody that I like and you're it. Don't make it weird. You know, like
that's right. That's right.
Fine. Do whatever works.
And like tag you're it, I guess. It's a game. It's like the new ice bucket challenge. Go tell somebody you love them.
I love it. Tag you're it. Go tell somebody else.
Yeah.
But when they do that, it's going to start a conversation of some sorts. Now, it might start a conversation of, hey, are you okay? How are you doing? why are you suddenly telling me you love me? This is weird. But it also may be like, I really needed that. I needed that today. You have no idea. That's happened to me. I don't know how many times. It's like, I really needed to hear that today. Well, you and I had this one time. Remember when we had something where it was like you were asking for a sign. You had posted something on.
Yeah, you were my sign.
I was your sign. It
Yeah.
was like you posted something, and I was like, "Hey, I just need to tell you." And I don't even remember what I said, but
It was like a year or two ago. I don't remember what it was. It was a while ago, but I remember you being like, "Oh," I was like, "Oh my God, you're my sign."
Yeah, and at the same time, I was like, "You're mine." Like I saw that video, and I was like, I needed a sign today, and that's what it was. But just expressing that love, just putting that out there when that person pops in your head, like there's a reason that person popped in your head.
100%. 100%.
Follow it.
That's
Follow
right.
it. So
That's exactly right.
Anytime you get that random nudge of like, you might want to check on this person, or I wonder how they're doing.
Yeah. And I will say our loved ones in spirit and our angels, our guardian angels are always trying to give us little loving nudges to help ourselves and help others. Always.
Yes.
So just trust that it's like divinely given to you. You're like, I don't know, maybe just today, crazy little old me got picked. So I'm going to do something about it.
Yes. And let it shine. Let your love light.
Yeah.
Is that a song?
I don't know. I'm sure it probably is.
Your something sign. I don't know. Anyway,
yeah.
Some lyrics.
Like my dad received like kind of a community service lifetime achievement award thing. And he was just talking about how honestly our lives, we want to strive for big success and big dreams and all of these things, but it's usually the small little micro moments that your life is really made of. And he had a similar experience where it was with his pastor and his pastor's daughter. And he was like, I don't know why, but I just was meant to give this to her. And it was like he's a hairstylist. And at the hair show, he didn't know why. And he bought this big cowhide rug at a hair show. Like sometimes they have like furniture and all sorts of crazy stuff. And he's like, my wife's going to kill me if I bring this home. Like, what am I doing? And he bought it and he didn't know why. And he kept coming back to it and back to it. And finally they gave him like a great deal on the very last day. And he bought it and he brought it home. And then he was like, you know what? I think maybe I'm going to give this to my pastor's daughter. I think for some reason, I feel like she's really into cows. Like maybe somebody told me that. Nobody told him that. So he gives it to her and his pastor starts crying and he's like, what is going on? And he was like, I don't know. I just saw this. And then like, I decided it wasn't for me and maybe it was for her. And he was saying how hard of a time she was having. They moved recently to that community and he was a new pastor and how she was really struggling and her mental health was really bad. And she was just really having a hard time finding her way. And, she didn't tell anybody this, but she really wanted to like this cowhide rug in her room. And it was like the craziest story. And she was like, Dad, how did you know I wanted this? And like, how like, I didn't tell you that. And I haven't been talking to you. And then they started talking about their feelings and how she was struggling and all of these things. And my dad was like, I just followed a nudge. I just followed this little nudge. And it had this giant ripple effect of her now, like, talking about her feelings and finding her way and all of these things and like totally shifted their family dynamic. And so it's like when you get those little nudges, act on them.
Yeah.
Do them
so
because
beautiful.
It's just such ripple effects that happen when we do.
Yeah. And here's the thing. Here's what I want to end that with as well. You get the nudge. Let's say you get a nudge and you're like, I'm worried about this person. I need to check on them. And they say, doing great.
I'm fine.
What's the worst that happened there?
Exactly.
Someone felt thought of and loved.
That's right.
At a random part of their day.
That's right.
Even if you're wrong and there's nothing major going on. So.
And maybe they'll never tell you either. If they're doing fantastic, great. They felt really loved. If they weren't doing fantastic and they told you they felt really loved.
Yeah, exactly.
Either way.
Yeah. It's still putting more positive and love in the world. And that's what we're called to do. So
that's exactly right. And I truly believe that if you're looking for like a final message of like, what are we supposed to be doing? And how is this all supposed to work? We really are meant to be the manifestation of love. Like what is the most loving way I can shine my light in the world? And if you're carrying a really heavy doom and gloom around, like, let this be your reminder that you do have light within you and you're meant to shine your unique, special light in the world. You are meant to share your gifts with the world.
Absolutely. And you're meant to receive the love that others give you.
Yeah.
It's around it, and
Yeah.
you are deserving of it.
Thank you for
deserve-
full circling that.
Yeah, absolutely. All right, Kara. So I am guessing that there are people, man, like, okay, you've convinced me. How do I get a reading? How do I work with Kara?
Yeah.
I
will
connect
always
with
open
her?
up email. I will on my email list open up readings. So I'll be opening up some more here in a few weeks. But I do have like a resources tab on my website. So it's Karmic Leader, KARMIC, karmicleader.com. And then if you go to the resources tab, there's a free Talk to Your Guides activation guide. It has some meditations in it, helps you understand signs and how to ask for them. And it's like an entry level in to your intuition and talking to your angels and connecting in a more meaningful way. So just start there and give it a try. And then if you're really into it, then you'll get email prompts when I open up spots for readings. And if you really want to be in a community of people where you're exploring this, I am launching something called the Energetics Mentorship Community. And it's a community where you can feel safe to explore intuition and energy and how to raise your vibrational state and connect with your guides and angels. So if you want to be in a community to practice this stuff and learn and get master classes, come on into that community too.
Okay, awesome. And I will link all of that in the show notes so you can get it easily. And Kara has a pretty good following or pretty good presence on Instagram, correct?
Yeah, I love the gram. That's where I love. Like I post things other places, but I really just love the gram. So I'll message back in Facebook, and I use Facebook for my community, but I like the gram. So if you don't like the gram, try me on Facebook. But if you like the gram, go there.
Yeah, so, that's so funny. I need to be an Instagram person, and I know that, but I just don't vibe with it. It's like I skipped it. I started with Facebook
and stay there.
Then Instagram and Twitter came around, and I was like, no, like Facebook. And then TikTok came around, and I was like, yep, I'll do that one.
Oh, that's so funny because I won't do TikTok. I was like, I just don't like being here, so I'm not going to do it. But that's the whole point. That's also a sign. You're like, go where you enjoy it.
Yeah.
Like,
yeah, exactly. And that's the thing is like,
yeah.
I'm going to need the US to get it together with TikTok because I love it.
Well, it sounds like they kind of did. So,
yeah, it'll be fine.
Yeah.
All right. Exactly. So join the community if that's something that you're interested in. I can vouch for her. She's legit. She's amazing.
Oh,
you're going to get a lot out of it. So, all right. Thank you so much. And you also have a podcast as well. So I want to let you plug that as well.
That's it. Oh, thanks. Okay, great. It's called the Energetics Podcast. And I interview people and I just talk about energy, frequency, vibrations. Sometimes I interview mediums and I talk about what it's like for them to do the work that they do. But it's really just meant to demystify this world of the unseen and help you realize like it's really open to all of us. And there's so many more people that are accessing their intuition and they just don't talk about it. So I am really on a mission to demystify this topic and make it more of a free-spirited thing that we talk about. Because I cannot tell you how many times I get calls from people where they're like, okay, I had a dream like that something was going to happen to my dad. And then the next day it did. And I never told anybody. Or I've like had this thing happen and I haven't told a soul. And I seem to be the safe place that people, which makes sense because I'm a medium, but a safe place for people to tell their stories of the things that they just don't feel safe telling the rest of the world because they don't want to be judged. So I am on a mission to help create safe spaces for people to be their authentic selves and explore their intuition.
I love it. I love it. And I love you, Kara.
Oh, I love you too, my friend. Thank you for having me.
Yes, absolutely.
If this conversation stirred something in you, whether it brought comfort, raised questions, or cracked your heart open just a little, I want to hear from you. Reach out on social media, send an email, or share this episode with somebody who may be walking through some grief or guilt or just looking for hope. If you found value in this episode, please take a moment to leave a review. Hit follow and share it with someone who could use a little light today. Your support helps get this message into the hands and hearts of more people and reminds the world that suicide prevention starts with connection, compassion, and sometimes a tiny little whisper from beyond. My guest next week is a grief counselor, mindset and wellness coach, and a public speaker. She has some true gems for both people who are struggling and people who may have lost someone else. So join us next week so you can intervene with ease.